Hi everyone, you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Amaka. In this tutorial, we are going to be learning how to make this cape you're seeing on the thumbnail. Now, if you're yet to subscribe to this channel, please click on the subscribe button and also turn on the notification bell so that you will be notified whenever I upload new videos. So let's get started. This is the fabric I'll be using for this project. This is organdy fabric. You can also use an African print to make this cape. Now what I have here is 1.5 yard of fabric. So this is my starting point, which is also going to serve as my shoulder line. Now from this point, I'm going to mark my full length. Now the full length of this top is 11 inches. 11 inches is my bust point. Now this is optional. You can decide to use your bust point above your bust point or below your bust point. It all depends on what you want to do. So the full length of this cape is 11 inches plus ½ inch hemming allowance, which I'm going to use to hem the lower part. And I'll connect the points with horizontal lines. So the next thing I'm going to do is to take my neck measurement. The front neck width is 3 inches and the front neck depth is also 3 inches. The back neck width is also 3 inches and the back neck depth is 1 inch. So I'm going to connect the points. Now take note, I'm drafting the front panel and the back panel together. So the shoulder measurement I'm working with is 15 inches. 15 divided by 2 gives you 7.5 inches plus ½ inch seam allowance, that gives you 8 inches. Now from this point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slant and I'll connect it to the neckline. Now from this point, I'm going to impute my armhole depth. Now to impute your armhole depth, you're going to divide your bust circumference by 6 and whatever it gives you, you add 1.5 inches to it. And that will be your armhole depth. So in my own case, my armhole depth is 7.8 inches. Now this 8 inches measurement I have on the shoulder, I'm going to bring it down here and I'll connect it to this point. So I'm going to extend this point to this point and that will be, now this is my chest point. So the next thing I'm going to do is to find the midpoint of this line. Now this is the midpoint of this line. So from this midpoint, I'm going to go in by ½ inch. On my chest point, I'm going to take my bust measurement of my chest point. My bust circumference divided by 4 gives you 9.5 inches. So I'm going to mark 9.5 inches here and I'll connect these points. Just like you see me doing. So the next thing I'm going to do is to extend the shoulder line. I'm going to extend this line by 4 inches. Now this is not standard. You can actually use 3 inches or 5 inches depending on the size of your shoulder or how big you want your cape to be. Now another way to do this is by dividing your round shoulder measurement by 4 and you add 1 inch for ease. In my own case, my round shoulder measurement is 44 inches. Now when I add 1 inch to it, that gives you 12 inches. Now when I measure what I have here, you see that what I have here is 12 inches. So from here, I'm going to extend my shoulder by 4 inches. Now I'm going to extend this line by 4 inches. Now I'm going to connect this point to this 4 inches mark. Now see this shoulder line. I'm still following this shoulder line. I'm going to mark my line slantly to meet this line. And I'm still following this shoulder line. Now this 4 inches extension I did on the shoulder, I'm also going to take 4 inches measurement here. I'm going to mark 4 inches on the chest point and I'll connect these points. Just like this. Now you see this part, I don't want this part to be pointy. So I'm going to blend it with the curved part of my ruler. So I'm going to use my ruler to blend it. So this same measurement I have here, I'm going to bring it down here. So I'm going to measure what I have here and I'll bring it down on the hem of the top. So this measurement I have here, I'm bringing it down here, and I'll connect these points. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to add that to my cape. Now to do that, I'm going to be working with my nipple to nipple measurement. Half of my nipple to nipple measurement is 4 inches. So I'm going to mark 4 inches here. Now from this point, I'll go up by 4 inches and I'll mark, and I'll connect these points. Now this dart that I'm adding here is to avoid gaping. So I'm going to mark ½ inch on both sides of this line. So I'll mark ½ inch here and ½ inch here. And I'll do the same thing on the hemline. Then I'll connect it to this point. So that's just it. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to add my seam allowance. After adding my seam allowance, I'm going to cut it. Now I'm working with ½ inch seam allowance. Now I've added my seam allowance to it. I had to do it off camera because I don't want this video to be too long. So now take note, I'm going to start by cutting the back panel first. I'll cut the back panel first. Then after cutting the back panel, I'll now cut the front panel. So for this dart, I'm going to close this dart before transferring it to my fabric. So I'll close it and I'll sellotape it. Now this is me transferring the pattern to my fabric. I started by cutting the back panel. Now this fabric is going to serve as the main fabric and the lining. I'm not going to add interfacing to this fabric because the fabric is light. If you're using African print fabric, please add interfacing to your fabric. Iron interfacing on your fabric. So on this point, I'm going to mark 2 inches here. Now this 2 inches is for that front opening, and I'll connect it to the top, just like you see me doing. So now I'm going to cut the front. So this is the back panel and this is the front panel. So I'm going to place the front panel on the back panel, right side facing right side, and I'll sew. I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew it with ½ inch seam allowance, and I'll sew here with ½ inch seam allowance. So here, now this part is going to have loops and this other part is going to have button. So I'll do it and show you the outcome. So after sewing, this is what I have. Now what I had to sew from here to here, and I had to sew from here to here. So the same thing I did on the main fabric, I did the same thing on the lining. So the next thing I'm going to do is to notch. And I'm also going to reduce the seam allowance on this fabric because the fabric is transparent, so I don't want the seam allowance to show from the fabric. So after that, I'm going to place the lining on the main fabric, right side facing right side, and I'll sew. So I'm going to sew it round. I'm going to sew it round. I'll sew the shoulders, I'll sew the sides, I'll sew the front, and then I'll sew the lower part. So I'm going to sew it round, but I will leave a space from where I'm going to turn it to the right side. Now I have my loop here. Now this is 2 inches by ½ inch on fold. This side, I folded this side already. and I've sewn it. So this is 2 inches by ½ inch unfold. If you open it, it's 1 inch, but when it's unfold, it's ½ inch. So I'm going to turn it to the right side. So I've turned it to the right side. So I'm going to fold my loop this way, and I'll place it on the fabric in between the lining and the main fabric, and I'll sew. Now I'm going to place it this way and I'll sew. So I'm going to sew it with ½ inch seam allowance, that is the front, and I'll sew the neck and the lower part and the sides, the shoulder. I'm going to sew, I'll just sew it round, but I'll leave a space from where I'm going to turn it to the right side. So now after sewing, this is what I have. So from here I'm going to turn it. Now this is the space I left. So from here I'm going to turn it to the right side. After which I'm going to tack that space, that hole that I opened, I'm going to tack it with needle and thread in such a way that you will not see the seam allowance from inside and you will not see it from outside. So I'm going to do it neatly, but if you don't know how to use your needle and thread to do it, you can use your sewing machine to do it. Now after sewing, this is what I have. Now you see the loop and the button. So this is it. If you check the wrong side, you will not see the seam allowance from the wrong side, and you will not see the seam allowance from the right side. So this is the right side. You see how neat it is. So that's just it with this tutorial. If you found this tutorial helpful, please click on the like button. Share this video with your friends. Share this video in your sewing groups. Subscribe to my channel if you've not done so. Feel free to ask questions. I'll be in the comment section to answer all your questions. We've come to the end of this tutorial. Thanks for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.